How's it going, everybody? Jordan here, and in today's video I'm gonna go over an Ezio classic assassin, a true Mystios, a realism build that has no crazy abilities or elemental damage but still packs a huge punch and is incredibly fun to play. This build has great assassin damage like Ezio, fantastic warrior damage like Connor, and honestly is up there for one of the better builds to play and can still compete on Nightmare very well compared to other unrealistic builds that use fire, poison, or things like Ring of Chaos. This idea was sent to me on Twitter by Sir Sitsalot00, where he asked me to create a realistic build. If you'd like for me to make a build or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at itsjordandoes, and I'll be sure to reply to you. I'm super curious what kind of build challenges you guys would be able to throw my way. I'd love to feature your idea on this channel. Alright, let's get right into the details. So this build got me excited because you can easily get caught in a rut in this game by focusing too much on fire or poison due to the high damage that they provide. And there's a lot of unrealistic abilities in this game because you're playing essentially a demigod. So things like Ring of Chaos can easily push most builds into a demigod or mythical status, and trying to make a build that doesn't use any of those things was a nice challenge, and as you can see, it's still really useful and it's really fun to play and it feels classic to me. To me, a realistic build is something like how Ezio or Connor used to fight in the past Assassin's Creed games. High assassin damage, good warrior damage, and using mainly a sword. I mean, Connor used an axe, but I chose to use a sword for this build. The sword is fantastic because it has a high attack speed but lower armor penetration, but it also has a heavy attack that the sword can stagger a shielded enemy, and using its attack speed you can kill them quickly. So the sword is very useful, it's very classic, but in the game of Assassin's Creed Odyssey it's really powerful and can kill enemies very quickly. So when you're assassinating an enemy or trying to clear a fort with sneaking abilities, you can still rely on your sword to kill those if you happen to get noticed. Also, it's really refreshing not having to worry about turning poison or fire on to deal damage. And as you can see, even without using fire or poison with this build, you can still hit really hard. Alright, let's get into the build details. So the primary weapon I'm using is the Xiphos of Dionysus, which is a sword that you get in the main game. It's not from the Helix store, by killing a main cultist from the Spartan storyline. So you're gonna have to get through about 2/3 of the main story to get this sword, but it has assassin damage, crit damage, 20% damage with hero strike, and then I engraved it with 30% damage with swords. Damage with swords is where we're going to get most of that melee damage this time because we're not leaning on fire or poison damage on these primary weapons. In the secondary slot, I'm running with warrior damage, crit damage with swords, and then I engraved armor penetration. And what you're going to notice here is I'm alternating my primary damage sources between assassin and warrior, so it's evenly split across both, so I can still one-hit assassinate enemies while still dealing really good warrior damage. For our bow, again, we're alternating, so now it's assassin damage, 10% crit chance, and then 20% warrior damage, and then I engraved 20% health and armor. For the head, again, we're alternating. Now we have 24% warrior damage. The secondary is 20% crit chance while at full health. The third is range resistance for more tankiness, and then we're engraving again that 30% damage with swords. For the gauntlets, we have assassin damage, 10% crit chance, crit damage, and then we engrave 100% crit damage while at full health. On the chest, we have warrior damage, crit damage, elemental resistance, and then 15% all resistance engraving from the Greek hero set. And then on our waist, we have assassin damage, crit damage while at full health, crit chance, and then I engraved 30% melee resistance. And then lastly, on our boots, we have warrior damage, crit chance while at full health, crit damage while at full health, and then we engraved it with more assassin damage. Alright, let's look at the main abilities for this, the realistic abilities, and that is going to be, the first one is Hero Strike. It's a very strong damage dealing attack. It can one-shot mercenaries with this build, and it's not anything crazy. You're just kind of, it looks like a move that you'd see in other Assassin's Creed games. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's not like Rush Assassination where you're teleporting to 4 different people at once and assassinating them. The second ability is the Spartan Spartan kick. The Spartan kick is very realistic. You're just kicking someone down, and what's useful is when matched with Hero Strike, you can kick someone on the ground and then use the animation canceling ability of Hero Strike and instantly kill them with these two abilities. The third is going to be Vanish. Now, Vanish isn't super realistic to me, but Ezio did use smoke bombs in the past, and so there is this idea of using smoke bombs throughout Assassin's Creed games up to now, so I figured Vanish is considered a realistic ability in the sense of the Assassin's Creed universe. And then lastly, yes, Second Wind isn't super realistic in terms of health, but I had a chat with Sir Sitsalot and he would agree that Ezio did take medicinal bags or stuff, and so having the health there just kind of helps you enjoy the game more. And then lastly, overpowered attacks. This is just a really good ability to have with this. Because of the swords, you can kill a single enemy very quickly. Alright, let's look at the masteries again. Again, if you don't have as many ability points as I do, just focus on putting at least 8 points into these main ones that I mentioned first. And the main ones you're going to want to do is crit chance at full health, crit damage, and damage while at full health to try to get that crit chance as high or as close to 90% as possible, and then the additional damage while you're at full health. The next is you're going to want to put some points into damage with swords and assassin damage, and then you're going to want to put some points into warrior damage as well. If you happen to have the extra ability points, you can start to put them into places like armor penetration, melee resistance, armor, health, elemental resistance, adrenaline per crit, adrenaline on assassination kill, ranged resistance, and then lastly crit damage on the hunter side. Alright, let's look at the stats for this build. Like always, in the description of this video or on the card of this video, you're gonna get a link to the builds.ac website with all the details of this build that you can look at from your mobile phone or on your computer, so you don't have to come back and screenshot the video or anything. Let's look at the main parts of this. The one unique part is when it comes to melee damage and assassin damage, we have a 93% crit chance while at full health. This will apply to assassinations and melee hits with the sword. And when it does crit, you are going to be hitting around 660% additional crit damage, which packs a massive punch. It's not as high as other crit builds out there, but it's enough to still have an incredibly fun time in the game and kill people very quickly. As you can see, we have no fire or poison damage because we're not doing any of that, but what we did is kind of translated what points and perks we would put towards those elemental modifiers, and we shifted them towards defensive modifiers. So we have a 36% increase in health, 158% increase in armor, a nearly 60% melee resistance, range resistance, and elemental resistance, giving this build a bit of tankiness to allow you to take more hits, especially in conquest battles. And then lastly, we have another 114% damage increase with swords. And then as you can see here, because we split all of the primary perks across the gear, we have an even split between warrior and assassin damage, which I think is extremely useful. Alright, let's look at the transmog for this build. Because I wanted it to feel like a classic assassin, I went ahead and went with the original kind of assassin shroud here. We're using the black assassin shroud for this one. There is a white and blue variation with gold. I like the black one for this particular set. On the gauntlets, we're doing the same thing again. We're using the assassin gauntlets. It kind of makes it look like there might be a hidden blade in there, but obviously not in this version of the game. And keeping with the theme for the chest, we're using the black variation of the assassin's armor, which goes well with the hood look, with the robe going over your back. I think it looks really cool. For the waist, I'm using the black version of the Ancient King's waistband, which I think looks really good with this set. And then lastly, on the boots, we're using the ornamented gold variation of the Athenian shoes, giving them these white look, which matches well with the gauntlets and the robe, and it kind of ties it all together in this nice white, black, and gray look that I really like. So that's the Ezio realistic Assassin's Creed build, and it was really refreshing not having to turn on poison or fire all the time, and honestly I'm really enjoying playing with it, and it's one of my favorites as of recently. So thank you, Sir Sitsalot, for the suggestion, which leads me to what other builds would you guys like to see? You can either tweet them at me or leave them in the comments of this video. I'm interested in the different types of build challenges you guys can throw at me and would love to feature your ideas. As always, I appreciate all of you guys, and if you enjoyed the video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe and hit the bell for more Assassin's Creed Odyssey content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time.
So proud of was born to be Spartan.